Hey,
Hello, hello, hello.
it's always
Morning.
an abrupt transition where you're just like groove into the song, and then it's just like, bam, it's over. Now we got to talk.
It is a good song. I like that one.
That bass line.
Happy 11 o'clock to those of us who are not Josh.
No, it's 10 o'clock here. I don't know what you guys are talking about. 10:06. Time for another coffee.
Must be hard being wrong all the time.
For our friends on the West Coast, I mean, they're just getting to work here. 8:06 there, so
That's true.
But
That's
it's
true.
also it's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere, as the song states. So,
Yeah. So how's your guys' week been?
Well, so very excited that it was opening day yesterday. That's my big thing for the week. Unfortunately, the Mets lost, and there are questions as to whether the Clay Holmes as a starter experiment is going to work out. But baseball's back, so I'm happy about that.
Did you have Grimace make an appearance yet, or?
So I believe that stuff that should all stay as last year's thing, right? They made one purple seat in the stadium in like a reference to this, but drop the OMG thing because Iglesias isn't on the team anymore. Like we need new memes for 2025.
Fair enough. How about you, Josh? How's your week?
Not too bad. It's been really nice here, so I've been enjoying the weather. We had got disc golf league. I played my first round of golf yesterday, so all good things there. I did partake in opening day. I did get sucked into adopting the Padres as my company's based out of San Diego, so they won. And even watched a little bit of the Mariners game late last night. So.
Nice.
I didn't want to feel left out, so joined in. But
how about you,
Awesome.
Henry? How's everything going?
Oh man, feels like the whole drinking from a fire hose as far as just communications and requests here lately, but it's all good stuff, nothing bad. But yeah, like you guys, happy to see opening day. Cubs actually won yesterday, so I'll take that. And I will actually not be joining you guys next Friday on the program because I never miss the home opener with my kids. So it'll be our
Nice.
ninth home opener.
so I mean, you don't have to miss us. You could just go live from the stands. I mean, we could get your kids to comment on one of the stories.
Yeah, I'm sure that would make for some interesting banter there.
Hey, I mean, I'm just gonna say, like, once school is out and my kids are home, it's gonna happen. I think it actually did happen on one of the shows where they were screaming and jumping on the bed in the background last year. So
Get their comment. It would be cool to get somebody's commentary on like a story from someone who's not in the tech industry.
yeah, or has no
Like, what do
idea
you think of
anything.
Yeah. They're assuming that that they care. Yeah.
Okay, that's true. That may be an incorrect assumption.
And wait for the first kid community live where they talk about favorite dinosaurs and stuff. Honestly, that's depending on the news that we have to cover throughout the week. That might be preferable, honestly. So
Also, we might have opinions on our favorite dinosaurs.
yeah, we don't get to talk about that. So, but what we do get to talk about are the news stories for the week. So let's go ahead and hop into the first one here.
Josh keeping us
MSP,
on track.
Someone's got to do it. MSP marketing and scams. We're inundated with ads from marketing companies promising the latest and greatest for MSPs. We've tried a bunch of marketing and all of it has been not great, but came across another who works strictly on volume. Massive volumes of email from 20 different domains stating they get a 95% delivery rate to the inboxes. We gave it a go and our web traffic went through the roof, but there was no engagement. We've installed some recording and heat mapping on our website to see what was going on. Tons of traffic, but almost identical. There's a 10 to 12 second visit, no clicks, and 145-degree mouse movement. Also, none came from our home state, which is where all the email was targeted. Before the marketing company, it had very little and predictable traffic, and now we're almost getting a 50% click-through rate, which is stellar, but I don't believe it's real. Do you guys think this is fishy, or what do you guys think of this marketing tactic?
I don't think it's
Yeah.
I just think it doesn't work the way that they think it does.
Yeah.
At least for us. And to be clear, I am far from a sales and marketing expert. So take this for worth. Um, most or even all or almost all of our real true qualified leads came from things like referrals, people's networks, and people who had heard somebody from our company speak or maybe engaged on social media in some way, like answered a question or something like that to build brand awareness. The actual marketing, really all it did was make people say, oh, I've seen your ad on Facebook or something when we sat down to have the actual meeting. So I think I think this just might be an organization that's not really informed of what marketing kind of is or is supposed to
Yeah.
be.
Well, it's pretty like I think it's well known, maybe not obvious, but well known. And this is getting out of like this sort of thing. But when you're trying to advertise things on like Facebook, for example, I've just running like pages for the community. Like we take disc golf. I was years ago one of the people that was part of the state's group of like of or disc golf chapter and we would have like, hey, if there's a tournament or an event coming up, we would obviously post it on the state's page. But the problem with those pages is Microsoft or Facebook wanted you to like pay for ads. So you would like, in order to get more people, you would pay for more ads, and then you would all of a sudden get all these views and stuff, but none of them were useful. So it's almost like they just like it's just kind of an ad, like a clicking, like, hey, you pay us and you're going to get all of this stuff, but it's it might be bots or it might just be people paid for clicks, but not actually going through and engaging. So we had to transition to a group and not a page so we could actually get the information out there, because if you don't pay for any of the pages and stuff, you're not getting those. But I mean, so the point of that tangent was I feel a lot of these operate in that similar fashion where, hey, we can get you the clicks, but those clicks are just coming from, whether it's a bot or just people that are literally paid to sit through and click on things and not actual qualified leads.
Yeah, no, and that's I think that gets back to the whole spray and pray tactic itself. Is going to give you a very, very poor and low return versus having that targeted approach with pertinent information, relevant information to your potential lead, and really building off of providing value rather than just trying to push numbers for pushing numbers. So,
Yep. Well, not only that too, I think once you get, maybe big enough to like your SEO, I think matters a little less. I think because if you're a smaller shop or one man shop or even like going after residential, I mean, the first thing you're going to do is go into Google and, type computer repair or something like near me or, fix my computer. Or you go on Facebook and you make a status saying, Google, where is computer repair next to me, depending on your age bracket and how good you can internet. But I mean, again, once you reach a certain point, you don't want that sort of, thing to pop up, and those leads are going to be less qualified for you anyway. Not saying it's not important, but like to your point, Matt, I mean your referrals and things like that are going to matter most. I'm not I play a part in like our pre-sales, but that's not my primary focus. I mean, that would be like our director of client success. But in talking with him, I don't know the last client we literally got that just said, hey, well, I Googled and found you guys, or, happened to stumble across your website. And I don't know, Henry, can you speak to that at all? Like, is that a common way that you guys get clients?
no, most of ours are because we've had some type of direct interaction with them, or they are a client referral. I would say though that like we don't ignore doing direct mail marketing. We still actually do that, a little bit of that. But I expect that the return on that is going to be a lot lower. And I also, we just starting to play with a tool called Outscraper. Let's see if I can drop the link here for people. But the idea is that we're looking at it for grabbing company data that meets our target verticals, or our ICP, off of Google Maps in a certain geographic area. We then basically clean that data and enhance that data with other sources so that we can identify people that we need to start looking at reaching out to directly and try and put them into some type of nurture campaign. But it's a very targeted approach.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a little more sense, and we're in the same. Like, we're not, ignoring some of the things like Facebook ads or SEO, and like our websites. I think it's pretty good, but yeah, definitely not our kind of our primary. But having some sort of target approach to get the right kind of clients is the right, I think a better way to go about it too. Is the other thing too, especially from email marketing. I mean, I can't tell you the last time somebody emailed me something like that I actually wanted to buy, like a cold email. I mean, those get either blasted to spam or, depending on your frequency, worse.
That always cracks me up with the number of LinkedIn cold messages that I get. Is like that must work for the quantity that are of people that are doing it, but for the life of me, I don't know a single time that I ever responded to one of those positively.
I think your comment, Josh, and something that was in the original post is worth highlighting here, and that's just kind of a reminder that the intent of marketing or this kind of outreach campaign or any of this stuff isn't, or ideally shouldn't be measured by, did they get this and then make a purchasing decision right then and there based on it, right? The answer to that is basically never. It's in order to later on, when somebody says, hey, I need IT support, I've heard of Acme IT support company, and just seeing that the original post was getting things like, well, this initial website hit hasn't ever really led to closed deals or even really meetings or real prospects. That's not necessarily a bad thing either, right? And if they're looking at did any of these convert right from just an initial marketing like email, like you shouldn't expect anything to convert from one email. That's like just the very beginning.
Well, yeah, that's like the whole, the funnel of sales. You fill up the top of the funnel, and then as things, fill up towards the bottom of it. So yeah, it depends on what kind of marketing you're doing. Because I guess if you are just trying to fill, hey, we're just looking for top of the funnel stuff, then those sort of things can work, because then it's name recognition, things like that. So when it comes time to it, you're like, oh, hey, I've seen that before. I know, I recognize that name. So maybe I'll reach out to them.
That's probably something that this individual is not tracking, is that client acquisition cost, and that it would be a very beneficial thing to be tracking if any of our listeners are not currently, just so that you have an idea of what that true cost is for you guys to bring in new leads and help build that funnel.
So let's end this on a lighter note. Let's say you don't, the budget aside, what would be the best way that you would want to advertise if you didn't have to worry about a budget? Like, are you talking airplane banners, like a blimp, like Super Bowl ad? What are we doing here?
I just hire Matt to go speak for me at an event.
I was actually going to say, like, use your budget to speak at events and spend more time answering questions and just becoming more well-known in whatever industry or vertical you're focusing in. That is, to me, is the most effective thing. Like, yeah, there's value in getting yourself out there and all of that, but just make your presence known and provide value, like become known for providing value in something. That's by far the most effective technique.
I mean, that's
for
good
me.
advice.
Again, I'm not a marketing person. That's just what I found.
Great advice, but where's the fun in that? Come on, I'm busting a giraffe out of the zoo and hanging, like, flying the banner or something,
Yeah.
Publicity.
Branded
Branded
underwear.
Skywriting.
Yeah.
Super Bowl ad.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Man.
Well,
let's move on to our next one before this devolves too much. All right. So we've got security standards and opting out. We're fleshing out our compliance initiative, and I'm up against a philosophical dilemma I'm looking for measured responses on. Say we've set our minimum security standard to CIS implementation group 1, and a customer demands to opt out of screen locking. Are you letting them opt out and documenting it, dropping the customer? 10 years ago, I would have taken a harder stance. These days, with the increasing friction of controls, I'm inclined to let them opt out of whatever. I am not their boss, and I don't own their business. Cybersecurity incidents aren't covered by our SOW. So am I going to die on the hill of screen locking, or am I going to tackle the other 50 controls? Let's hop into this. What are you guys doing? Are you firing a client and you making an exemption and documenting it? Do you just not care?
The answer
I
is
feel like it depends
but
on what it is.
I'm certainly not firing somebody over screen lock. Like that's that to me tells me you have security experience, but you don't have business experience, because the whole point of the security is the triad, and but security needs to work with the business, right? So you're not going to everything's going to be a business risk, and determining what the appetite for that is. And now screen lock is something simple, but if there legitimately is a business need for, hey, we can't have these computers locked for XYZ, then I mean, figuring out compensating controls, adding it to a risk register, things like that. But and maybe that is just the example OP used, but I don't feel it's the best example to get into, or if that would be the line to cross to let them go.
What about you, Matt?
So the way that I see this is every MSP is going to have a different set of what I would call non-negotiables, right? There are certain things that if a client decided or wanted to opt out of, that it would be justification. It's not the same for every org. In some cases, that's having the EDR software, that's MFA, right? Those are pretty obvious ones, but there are some that might be different based on what organization you're with. But the one thing that I do think this poster is absolutely correct about, and we as an industry sometimes need to do a better job of remembering, is that it ultimately is the client's call to do something or not, right? It is their business. Now, what we're doing when we're firing a client over something like this is saying that the risk that you're deciding to accept is too great for us, right? You get into that concept of risk appetite and all that nuance stuff. But ultimately, it really is the client's choice to do that. We don't have to support it, right? We can say we're not comfortable working within that constraint, but sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, or was when I was MSPing. I'm not saying just everyone else do this or calling anyone out. We tend to get into this ownership aspect of our client networks at times and think that they're ours. They belong to the clients, and the clients can take a risk if they want to. It's up to us to decide if we want to go along for that ride.
Yep. Well, the other thing too, and this might be, shout out to Dean, this might be the spicy take. Your client probably doesn't give a shit about IG1. I mean, or CIS or NIST, or unless they're in a regulatory requirement, they don't care. They're hiring you to secure their network and make sure it works correctly. So, having those sort of things, I would be curious to see how they're going back, if they're going to, hey, we're going to implement, all of these 50, 60 things of IG1, and then assess you on them, and to me, I don't feel that that's the right way to go about it. Maybe call it a hardening, and then there's some negotiables on what things that you can harden. There should absolutely be some non-negotiables where, hey, if you don't have MDR, if you don't have EDR, it's just too big of a risk for us to take you on as a client. But to Matt's point too, it is ultimately their environment, their network. But I don't think, and it's a great idea just to go in there with, here's the list of 160 CIS controls, and here's what you're assessing you, and you need to follow all of these, because that's going to be way over the client's head, and that's not what they're paying you to do.
So I'm going to take a contrary approach to this. While I think that, yes, you need to have some wiggle room around some of those security policies in your standards that you're willing to accept with clients, one of the things that I find as time passes here is we're actually getting stricter about what we tolerate. Because on our end of it, I'm looking at it as that is risk we're assuming for the client and not getting compensated for.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if I can help reduce that, and the other, I guess, way to frame this or look at it, we always have conversations about MSPs should work towards a relationship with their clients that's similar to a medical practice, where you don't ask your doctor for the list of prescriptions you should be taking to be healthy, and then choose which ones you're not going to take. Like, at least you
Well, and
should.
not only that, looking at it from the doctor perspective, and you go there, like how we talk, same thing. We should be talking security. It's not just, hey, here's your options for what we could do. We could do, physical therapy. We could do surgery. Here's that, and like what do you want to do?
Mhm.
No, the thing is, like, this
Absolutely.
this is the path we're going to take. Speaking in the absolutes and giving the absence of the choice. Obviously, there's the choice of always like no, but you can't give, I don't say don't give them the choice. Don't let them make them, I guess, give that on their own. So talking in those absolutes. But the other thing too is just the service model and the offering, I think, has to be built around that too, because especially your non-negotiables. If it's something is a non-negotiable, then it needs to be included in your standard stack or solution, rather than trying to do the a la carte bolt-on for things that are non-negotiable. Now, not every security product is going to be a non-negotiable. It shouldn't be, and there are some things that just don't fit certain clients. But we all have what we consider the non-negotiables, and my advice would be, at the very least, cyber insurance requirements. So things like security awareness training, EDR, MDR, some sort of vulnerability management. Those are all things like, hey, if you're partnering with us, like, this is what we're providing and doing. And whatever you want to do from there, the road mapping, the hardening projects, like if you want to get them to IG2, absolutely great. But you have to go about it, I think, the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's kind of thinking too, is like, think about your the difference in your client base, as well as you have some that are going to be governed by different compliance requirements, and you're going to have some that perhaps are under a co-managed environment where they are assuming. So having some type of shared responsibility matrix, or addressing things in that way for some of the security standards and opting out that may come up. So I know for us, if we have a client that is pushing hard against some of our things, we tell them, you are moving into co-managed territory, and we're going to set up an SRM around that, just so that it's very clear and delineated that they own that issue, as it were.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, ultimately, it could end up being the having the hard conversation of dropping a client just because it is too much risk. The other side too is, like, even if the client, you make them sign something, or these things happen, like, you're still, maybe you're not at fault, but the client will, potentially will still blame you. But if an incident happens, now they're expecting, hey, like, drop everything. And as you're doing IR and all of this, like, it just doesn't look good for you if something happens to the client and you're the MSP, regardless of the relationship, how good or bad it is, if they're not listening to you. I mean, again, coming from a privileged place, but at some point, it is something you have to do, is having those hard conversations and having the ability to, say, hey, not all revenue is good revenue, and you're just too big of a risk to continue being a partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to your point on those waivers, ask some people in the legal space how often they actually hold up, and at best, it means that you don't have to pay for the damage. Your rep might still be trashed regardless.
Yep.
Right? There's no way to for any court to enforce restoration of your reputation, even if you do have the paper to get financially compensated.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to Yeah. Go to
Yeah, I
our
was going to
next.
say risk tolerance discussions, but yes, let's move on.
All right. Matt, are you reading off your laptop or you want me to read this one?
Yeah, I'm on my laptop.
All right, I got it. FBI warnings are true. Fake file converters do push malware. So this is our first non-Reddit story coming to us from Bleeping Computer. The FBI warns that cyber criminals are using fake online document converters to spread malware and scrape data. These tools appear to be legitimate, but they may install hidden malware, giving hackers remote access to devices. Some even extract personal details like passwords and banking information from uploaded files. Scammers use deceptive URLs and paid search ads to lure victims. Researchers have linked these sites to malware like Bootloader, which can lead to ransomware attacks. So, how do we prevent these things from happening now that we know about them?
Well,
I
having
mean-
an approved list of software is a good, or software assets is a good starting point.
Well, let's push back on
It's a
that.
user education thing.
You have an approved list of software, but this is a website. I don't have to download anything. I just have to go to convertmypdf.com and drag a file in there and grab a Word document, and then it automatically spits out a PDF file. So I'm getting around your security things that block all applications because this is a URL.
Are you not doing URL filtering in some way?
So you're blocking every URL except for you're operating on a whitelist only of websites that you can go to. Your employees.
Well, no, I mean, so I said it tongue in cheek, but like seriously, are we not using any software that blocks malicious URLs?
Yeah, or sandboxing and scanning, or at least securing and blocking users from launching any type of executable file that isn't pre-approved and what do I want to say? At least reviewed by a technical asset within the organization.
From a DLP standpoint, you could block the ability to upload and download files unless they're from a known site. That'd be another way. But I think the user education piece is probably the best way. But the other side too, and this one, like, it's kind of an intangible, but there's not, I mean, unless you, I guess, like a paid PDF subscription or paid Adobe subscription, like, they don't make it easy to like convert these. Like, these are, some of them I know, like with what you can print to PDF and things like that. But depending on the type of file, document, or things that you're converting, there's not a kind of a quick, easy way to do it other than these websites. So you can see why it is so prevalent. But the sponsored searching is a thing that has been, I think, out there for the last couple of years as well, where you just pay Google or pay whatever to show up as one of the first couple links, and it looks legitimate even though it's not. But yeah, I guess this is shadow IT. You want to try to prevent it.
Yeah, this pushes back to the discussions MSPs should be having around business outcomes with their clients on a semi-regular cadence at least.
This falls into the same bucket as what was it, around this time last year? There were a huge number of malicious things like advanced IP scanner downloads, right, and all sorts of fake versions of real tools that were used for masquerading as malware. Now, so the same type of techniques you might use to block things like that still apply. Yes, I know there's a difference between the executable download and the potential data exfil issue. But this is one of the real talking points for user education, right? Not just, we somehow got into this mindset that user education is just watching those compliance videos once a year. Really explaining to your staff why it's important to control what happens to corporate data, right? That's the ultimate thing. You have your data, and maybe I shouldn't upload it to a random website. Maybe I shouldn't enter it into public LLMs for that matter, right? Getting users to think that way and not just doing it once a year when the video that everyone opens and like goes to fold their laundry comes out. That I think is the same kind of vector here, and it should be being reinforced during meetings and reinforced during, company updates and things like that. It's a good opportunity just to remind your employees of their part in protecting things. And to your point, Josh, there is also some opportunity if you have use cases that your staff does need to do these conversions with any kind of regularity. It's kind of on us to give them a way to do it securely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if they don't know the process or procedure around it, or if it's too hard to follow something, then that's where that's how shadow IT happens. Is, hey, I just need to do my job, and there's hurdles to doing my job, so I'm going to find the easiest way to do it because I want to do my job. And if that is just a quick, hey, how you go hop into your web browser and type convert Word to PDF, and then these things sort of happen. So I think it definitely comes down to a lot more of the user training that isn't just coming from your security awareness training videos.
Where do you guys,
Yeah.
or I guess, how are you emphasizing shining a light on the shadow IT within an organization? Is you relying on tools, people, process?
I think I would say two steps is obviously, we're monitoring. So like, let's say for an example, my EDR alerts me that there's like it blocked some sort of PDF thing that isn't like Adobe or an approved thing. So not only am I making sure that that killed in quarantine, but there's also going to be a user education piece and reaching out to the POC on that and saying, hey, this was blocked, all is good, but let's figure out, like, why did the user download this, like what can we do so they can do their job or prevent this, and then kind of explaining, maybe it's a quick 5-minute meeting with the user explaining, hey, this was blocked, we shouldn't do this. So taking that extra time for the user education, yes, it does take more time, but I think it's important. And the second thing, especially for me, is obviously we provide the security awareness training, but we highly recommend that to all of our clients that they take a half hour to it, all staff hands-on at least once a year, if not sooner. And I basically go over like a PowerPoint, and it's just 10 slides of cybersecurity basics. And it's just, that's what it covers, is things like the shadow IT or how to protect your personal things. And it's a little different from the security awareness trainings because it's all hands-on, kind of relevant, more of a Q&A, more of an interactive session. And I think I've found that has been pretty successful from how I handle it, but open to seeing what you guys do as well.
No,
The
we're
biggest thing
very much
I
the same.
did with this,
Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I was slightly different. The biggest thing I did, yes, we did do monitoring with like a CASB solution, or even just like the stuff built into Defender, depending on what licensing you have, can give you some insight into what SaaS applications are being used. But I really made a point to, for at least when I was doing for internal InfoSec, both for MSP and for organizations, was to make a point to not be the no department and to not put as much, make it as friction free as possible to come talk to me about something. And once you started to get a reputation that it wasn't going to be this, oh my God, I have to like go talk to InfoSec about something. People would just like send you a Teams message like, hey, is this thing safe to upload to, right? And it wouldn't be like employees were hiding stuff. It would be they felt comfortable asking. And for us, that started to work. I don't want to say better because, right, tools catch tons and tons of things, but this idea of the employees trying to like sneak something by InfoSec really started to dissipate after a while because we were open to like, hey, good idea or not, and didn't do things like you have to fill out like a 50 question form just to ask about something, right? Ask a question, then if you want to get it approved through compliance, then yeah, go through all the paperwork and stuff, but just be there for your team.
Yeah, that's a huge underrated part of it, is the better relationship that security has with the business. I think the more effective that the business and security can be, because you're working in a collaborative environment and trying to help each other rather than, like you said, being the no department. That is one thing I preach all the time, is like, you've got to, if you're a sysadmin in a sysadmin role, or even a network admin, for some part, you could be that guy that is locked in the server room and you don't see people and you just deal with the computers, right? Those those jobs do exist, but I think especially when you're on security and or trying to build a security culture, like you have to have that open communication and build the relationship and be visible to the organization for those reasons and to be more effective.
Well, and Josh, I'm not calling you out at all, but you said the phrase. I got news for you. If you're in security, you are part of the business. There's not this IT side and business side.
Yep. Get to do both. But all right, well, let's go ahead and get to our next story here. This is an interesting one here. So 1-year client report in MSP. This person is an MSP, and one of their managed service clients is approaching their 1-year mark with us. We want to send them a detailed report that showcases the value provided over the last year. The idea is to highlight their IT environment when they onboarded, improvements and optimizations we've made, current status, and key achievements. I'd love to hear from this community. What are the most important things we should highlight? Any reference or guide, or how do you structure your reports? Looking forward to your insights. So I'd like to phrase this as, because my first question is, does this person not do QBRs? And let's assume that they are doing those. My next question then is, do you do something differently for that year mark that you wouldn't do at a standard QBR? Like if it's your 4th QBR of the 1 year, is there anything above and beyond you would do for that sort of like special anniversary, or do you just treat it as another QBR?
So we, in recent years here, have started pushing towards doing a re-onboarding or reorientation on an annual basis, just to ensure that we're preventing any type of scope creep, and ensuring that all documentation is the most current. But we have that built into our plans with clients, and there's some client education that goes along with that. That said, the meeting schedule itself doesn't typically change much for us as far as an annual versus a TBR QBR. Those are the same. The client is just getting on that annual basis some additional touch points from us where we're doing that reorientation, re-onboarding.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
I said it better than Henry. No, I agree with everything Henry said. And the only thing I can add to this that he didn't mention is, if you make a 1-year report, whatever you do, don't show anything like hours spent or anything like that. The client doesn't care. Make it outcome based if you do any kind of annual update or state of IT thing.
Absolutely. And I think, everything that the person is trying to do as far as like the roadmaps and where they were, like, I feel that those are all things should be in the QBR. You should always have a roadmap. We're working actually through a process where there's a little bit of a client portal where they can kind of see, if they want to log in at any point, they can see, current recommendations, roadmap, where they were, the whole thing kind of in a portal. But yes, all of those things should be covered in the QBR.
Yeah. I'm actually going to share my screen here for a second so you guys can kind of get a rough idea of what we do for our workflow around TBRs. And I will share a link that goes to this Miro board that anyone that's listening can go and review. But effectively, you're working left to right here across the top, and then what's included in each one of those sections is down below. But you are effectively working from where you are to where you want to go, and building out and having those discussions with your clients. So
awesome. That is a fantastic resource. Cool. Yeah. I like it.
I guess I'll say one more thing. If you happen to have any efficiency data from clients that maybe drove what projects to adopt, that would be a great thing to go over. I know you don't always have them because clients don't even necessarily know the answer to those themselves. But if you can show something like, hey, we helped you with this process, or this thing you had been waiting on or had been costing you money went away. Like it can be valuable to show, but the corollary to that is, if the client has that data, there's a good chance they already know it, and it'll just be shown it'll come off as touting your stats for no real reason or current value. So just be a little careful with it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we got 2 more stories, so let's go ahead and skip ahead to the next one here. Henry, this one's all you. Give us another update.
All right. So, Red Curl, a cyber espionage group active since 2018, has started deploying ransomware in addition to its usual data theft operations. Security researchers discovered that the group is now using QW Crypt, a ransomware designed to encrypt Hyper-V virtual machines. The attack begins with a phishing email containing a .image attachment that installs malware through the DLL sideloading. Group uses stealth tactics to avoid detection and disable security measures before launching the ransomware. Unlike traditional ransomware gangs, Red Curl does not have a public leak site, raising questions about whether the encryption is for financial gain or a diversion tactic. You guys had any experience with this or similar threat actors?
So not this one in particular. I think the thing that's notable about this particular attack is that we always hear about hypervisor encryption, and the immediate knee-jerk response is, well, they probably just left their management interface public. And it's notable to hear that there's now more targeted attacks on hypervisors that start with compromising an internal system and then moving laterally inside the network. I mean, we know that happens, but this is now something that specifically is looking to get to hypervisors. And I think the same thing is going to happen with things like out-of-band management on servers, right? HPILO, Dell, iDRAC, things like that. So it moves some of the things that we all kind of know inherently to do, but don't always see at clients, like having management interfaces on separate VLANs and really actually securing internal assets that way. It raises the importance of things like that. And of course, right, there's the obvious defenses around looking for and trying to filter out these types of phishing messages in the first place. But post initial access, limiting the damage that can be done from a threat actor trying to pivot and move laterally is becoming more important than it already was.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I don't have much more to add other than, again, we talked about user awareness for these things, but if we're in the cybersecurity industry, this is the kind of user awareness that we need to have, is, being aware of what threats are out there. And, just when you see something like this, it's like, hey, this is active, but just taking that step back and like, okay, well, what would happen if this were to happen in one of our environments, or our own environment? Like, would I be able to protect against it? And just utilizing these to do kind of a soft little tabletop and realize that, hey, maybe we do need to make this change or up our security, or figure out if we're prepared for this sort of thing.
How about for a strategic motivational side of this? It seems like we're starting to see more corporate espionage pop up. And I would be curious if a group like this or others are starting to see that as a potential income stream for themselves. Like we saw that whole deal and rippling thing with the corporate espionage, was that last week or so?
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I'm curious if we're going to start seeing some of these threat actors move in that direction, since they have access to this data. And if they are not ransoming it back per se, and just strictly encrypting it, it does make you wonder where the incentive is for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the incentive is money. So if there's corporations that are willing to pay for it, then I think we're going to see it. That's the ultimate. The same thing with ransomware. The reason it's still around is because people are paying ransoms. And, obviously it's easy to say, well, don't pay the ransoms and it goes away, because that's obviously not as nice as that would be. That's not a realistic thing. So, if somebody's out there willing to pay for this sort of thing, then there's a market for it, unfortunately.
No, it's a good point, Henry, right? You sometimes hear about threat actors who are motivated just by causing chaos and destruction, but it seems like a lot of work to get to something that may not even be externally visible. If there's, right, like I know, yes, maybe there would be evidence in the form of a company's services going down or their public presence disappearing. But yeah, what's the motivation of this if they're not asking for ransom and the evidence of whatever they targeted not necessarily being publicly visible? Is it some kind of a revenge plot against specific targets? We don't really know. Or to your point, is it perhaps just data exfil ultimately?
All right. Well, let's since we're coming up towards the top of the hour here, let's move to our last story. Matt, you want to take this one?
So it's very small, but I can get the gist just by the title. Too many MFA tokens for comfort. Use several screens of tokens in my Microsoft Authenticator. Yep, that's pretty common. 2 for M365 itself. 1 for each of the third-party services that we use. Then there are a growing number for different apps and services that our clients like to use and manage. And of course, there are the services that I use. So this must be from the perspective of a technician. Okay, counted them, got almost 60. Yep. One option might be to keep non-M365 accounts in the third-party tool. That's just kind of separating day-to-day work personal from this set of client access tokens. Second one will still be a great big long list. So basically what the gist that I'm getting of this is the direct question was, how do I deal with having a lot of MFA tokens for clients? And then I think the thing he didn't ask that we should probably address in some way is, should I, as a technician, personally have stuff that belongs to clients, and how does that weigh against the potential risks of storing MFA tokens in your password manager, because that has a lot of problems in itself. So how do you guys handle that?
Well, in the thread, there's unfortunately a lot of like, oh, use password managers and store your tokens in there. That completely goes against the two-factor authentication. If you have your 2FA in the same place your password is, because it's just another copy paste. Like if your password manager gets compromised, that's it, man. You're done. So don't do that, please. As convenient as it is. However, I will say that there is, thinking about it now too, from an MSP perspective, if you do have, and obviously you want to get away from shared admin accounts as much as possible, but if you do have one like let's say you have a dedicated, projects team where there's maybe 5 of them or whatever, and onboarding a client, there's a shared global admin. So you put that in there, and you obviously have to have MFA on it. So you have that MFA in that password manager, but only those 5 people are to access it, and all of that's audited. At that point, it's weird to think about, but like, hey, well, if there's a text that goes to a phone or an email that goes to a shared distribution, technically that is more secure because it's a different medium than just having that auth token in there. So I think that's kind of an acceptable part of, okay, well, you have to do your job, but you want to make it secure. But what's kind of the best way to handle that? And obviously the right answer is like, you never share the accounts. Everyone has their own, or you're using GDAP and things like that. But, there does exist a time where there is a shared admin, global admin account. So what would you say would be the best way to kind of, to do that or secure that?
So the approach we've kind of taken is that, yes, it's going to suck that there are some, just by the nature of our jobs, that you're going to have a ton of tokens that you have to keep track of. Where it is a thing like M365, though, we've pushed everyone, they have to use our partner portal or tools, not to call any specific ones out, but there are tools out there that will allow you to manage client tenants without having to use a shared login by leveraging the GDAP side, portion of things. So we went away from techs having their own service accounts to that approach. We still do have a break glass account for various clients for like their M365, but those are tied to YubiKey tokens that are stored in the safe here.
What would so if your organization is more remote, though, that kind of throws the YubiKeys out the window, does it not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's like you have to find the best, the the business, like the best kind of like business risk, where it's like we want the lowest amount of risk while still being, you know, secure and able to do the job. So it's
Well,
a tough one, but don't just.
One of the discussions I was having this morning before this was actually about this same topic, and kind of what we settled on is maybe the best solution would be to effectively have two password managers. There's one for your passwords, one for your TOTPs, and ensure that technicians do not have the ability to reuse a master password.
Yep. Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, that might be. I like Henry's solution. I think one of the things that comes up whenever this topic comes up is we tend to focus on things like M365, which, as we just talked about, has mechanisms for this. I think the bigger operational day-to-day issue comes up with things like the login for the support portal for a client's line of business application, right? And all of a sudden they're trying to do MFA and do the right thing, but now you have a code that you have to deal with. So I just want to highlight that stuff like that seems to be I mean, yes, the impact is lower, but just day-to-day dealing with client stuff, that's what causes this problem, I think, more so than like a client's M365 account. There's lots of solutions to deal with that. I like the idea of having two password managers, of course, from a risk calculation perspective. Now your footprint is bigger and you have more things to secure, so you have to balance that with what other options you might have. But I think my point is it's not quite as simple as we sometimes make it out to be, where like, yeah, just use Partner Portal. Like, yes, that's true for M365. It's not true for a lot of the day-to-day stuff that comes up with clients and things that they have access to or need access to.
Well, the other side too is, as great as some of those tools are, there just are things that you can't do with Partner Portal access, and you do need that global admin account. It's not often. They might cover 80-85% of things, but there is that 15% where like you don't have a choice. You need some sort of admin account to do it.
So I think we've made the audience feel that there's not a good answer for some of this. No. There's a trade-off any way you go.
But I would still implore you to please don't blindly throw all of your TOTP tokens in the same password manager. I mean, it may work for some cases, but if you're just going to throw all of your stuff in there, then I mean that's all your eggs in one basket, and not a great thing to have. But, all right, well, let's get to the plugs here. We got 2 minutes left. So, what do you guys got coming up? What should we be aware of?
Next week, I am in Chicago for Channel Pro for their event. I believe is on Wednesday. Let me double check. Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So that's where I'll be. If you're in town, come say hi and buy you a drink. Matt?
Biggest thing for me, and will be for the next 2 months or so, IT Nation Secure is coming up. First week of June, registration is still open. I think Early Bird might still be open as well. So if you haven't seen or heard, I've taken over as kind of event owner this year, and a lot of new changes and new approaches to things coming up. So very excited, and more to come.
For me, I'm always going to plug the irgame.ai. Actually, as soon as this ends, I'm going to hop over to our free monthly game. So please check us out next month. We're constantly improving, coming up with different scenarios. Each time you play is going to be different. So definitely check out irgame.ai.
Yeah, that is the one time I was able to hop on, and hopefully my schedule will allow me to get in here again soon. But yeah, that is a fantastic opportunity for people to really test their chops and nerves.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out. We will see all of you guys except for Henry next week on Friday. Have a great rest of your day.
See you guys.
Bye.
been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.